This man could give Villa fans bragging rights over Wolves for decades to come. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer. And we are going to be looking at Mr. Dean Smith's exodus from Aston Villa. Now, being two Wolves fans, it's very easy to say that, Scott, we've kind of enjoyed what's happened to Villa this season. And if it happened to Wolves, I'm sure Villa fans will be the same. But Scott, you did a video only 2 days ago on Dean Smith about how you said if you were a Villa fan, you'd give him more time, and you've given him the sweet and sour kiss of death, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Dean, if you're watching this, I want to start the video by basically apologising to you, because I think what must have happened is someone from the board watched it and thought, if that idiot thinks that Dean Smith should stay, we need to get rid of him. We need to get rid of him. And that 2 days later, he's gone. So yeah, that video has become pretty redundant. I was actually surprised to see how much Villa fans wanted, many Villa fans perhaps wanted him out. And I think it made me think, if Villa fans generally want one of their own possibly to go, then maybe it is the right time. But obviously you weren't on the video. I gave my opinion. But what was yours? Obviously now he has been sacked. Do you think it's the right decision that they've made?
They just can't afford to go down, can they? There's no sentiment in football anymore. Depending on who they get in to replace him, and I guess that's an easy answer to say. It depends whether it was a good sacking or not. But I think it became stale the way they played their football. It wasn't the Villa that we've seen over the last year. The Grealish sale didn't help, but I think it was right. I do. I think it's right.
Interesting. I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? As you said, you've alluded to financial fair play, and I do agree that was a good point. One thing that Villa can't afford to do is go down, because they've spent that much money since coming back up to the Prem. Be an absolute disaster with FFP if they did go down. Imagine even with the Grealish sale. I mean, obviously that brought in a lot of money. I mean, let's move on though to the potential of the people that might be coming in. Yeah. And one name I wanted to throw straight out there that I found interesting that's being linked is Fonseca. Obviously,
this guy, he got linked with Wolves after Nuno left. He got linked with Everton before Rafa got the job when it didn't work out with Nuno there. He's been linked with Norwich now. I think he got linked with the Watford job. He's been linked to every Premier League job this season already, and from the summer. He's an unknown entity, isn't he? He's an unknown entity. A bit like Bruno Lage at Wolves, unknown in the Premier League, was at Sheffield Wednesday. Can't really judge them on that. But it's working out. It's working out. So I don't know. I think there's better names in the hat than Fonseca. Ooh. I would say that. But listen, It doesn't mean you have to have a Premier League, either an ex-Premier League player or a manager that's been in the Premier League to have success. That's been proven, and it's being proven now with Bruno at Wolves. I think there's a few better names on the list. Whether they get those
surprised names. Me. That has really surprised me. It's an interesting note what from what you said with Fonseca, because he does keep getting chucked into the left, right, and centre. And of course, the main one that you perhaps that he is getting chucked into now is not just any club. You wonder if it's coming from his agent, actually, don't you? But
he's also Newcastle as well. I forgot Newcastle. Yeah, there's another.
Well, he's also been thrown into the United hat. His stock seems to keep going up and up and up. Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think if Villa managed to get him in, I think it would be actually a really good. He'd probably be my pick of the bunch, but I actually worry whether he's perhaps going to wait a bit, because he feels that maybe he could get. He nearly got his name in the door at Tottenham if it weren't for Conte, I think. So maybe, no disrespect to Aston Villa fans, but I'm sure if any are watching, I appreciate if he could get himself in the door, get a chance at Manchester United. Of course, he would probably wait for that. But I think it would be a really good signing. But of course, you've alluded to past players. But of course, one past player that is potentially at the moment the favourite, Mr. John Terry. That's a very interesting one, isn't it? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm seeing a lot of Villa fans, because with the channel, we try and keep tabs on the fan bases of other clubs. I was so surprised at the level of fans coming from Villa that actually wanted Dean Smith out. And really, until you look into a club's fan base, you don't really see what's going on. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people saying, obviously since Terry has left his post at Villa, it's kind of gone downhill for them. And you kind of think maybe that did have an effect. How much did John Terry affect the club on the training pitch, around the ground? I like John Terry. I think there's something about him. I think he's got that Steven Gerrard esqueness about him, if that makes sense. I think he's ruthless if he needs to be. I think he's one of the lads when he needs to be, a bit like David Moyes. Let me put it this way: if John Terry was coming into my club over, say, I don't know, Frank Lampard, I'd be more happy with John Terry. What's your opinion on? Are you Lampard or Terry? Although Lampard has got experience.
I mean, I don't rate Frank Lampard at all as a manager. But no, I definitely, for me, I think it wouldn't be a bad sign at all to bring in John Terry, as you've alluded to. He's got that captain experience, he's got that leadership. The one thing that would be into question though is his tactical awareness. But I think he would have learnt a lot under Dean Smith. And it's no coincidence for me that the defensive ability and the defensive performance this season has gone down since John Terry left. Now, we know John Terry wants to go into a management because he did say that he'd had one previous offer to actually manage a club, but it weren't the right one. And he said he was going to wait. So I think this is it's definitely one that I feel John Terry will be biting his hands off.
Also on that, you talked about the tactics, and that's an unknown quantity at this point in time, an unknown entity at this point in time. Just look at some of the managers that he's played under: Mourinho, Felipe Scolari, Ancelotti, Avram Grant. Unbelievable managers that he's got on his CV from his playing days. So you're still going to learn from that. He'll take the best from Ancelotti's double-winning team. He'll take the best from Jose Mourinho's title-winning teams. He's played under some of the best managers of all time. It's definitely this century. So it's not like just because he's never managed anyone, he's not going to have any tactics. Scott, there's a name that's been linked, but not heavily, because he's already got a job. And this is a man that's been linked to the Newcastle job while still in the Premier League. He got linked to the Spurs job while still in the Premier League. This is my number one pick. Graham Potter. I say this on every video we do about a manager that sadly loses their job. This guy should be at a bigger club. No disrespect to Brighton fans if they're watching. Is Villa enough of a step up, in your opinion, for him to leave a good project at Brighton? Or do you think he'd only leave Brighton to, no disrespect to Villa, to go to a Spurs, an Arsenal, a United?
I think one thing that you've got to consider with Villa in general, that they are a bit of a sleeping giant, and not so much sleeping now because they're back in the Premier League, but we know that they've got money. The owners are happy to invest money, and they do have ambition. I think, especially when they sold Grealish and brought in these other players, it wasn't to keep the Premier League status. It was to actually go and push on for those European places. What Graham Potter's achieving with Brighton is absolutely fantastic. I think he's the most underrated manager in the Prem, and that's even now that he's still getting accolades. And you're right. I think if there was one choice, I mean, I said Fonseca, but that's because I didn't really consider Graham Potter. He has been mentioned, but you just wonder, that's going to come at a fee, and how big a fee would that be, especially the way that he's playing with Brighton so far, where they're sitting in the table. It's not going to be cheap, is it, to buy Graham Potter out? But I think he would. I think he would fancy it. I really do, because let's not get it mistaken. Villa are a massive club. They've got a big fan base. They've got the owners to back them. I'm not sure Brighton quite have that level, so it would be a step up for Graham Potter. It's just whether it's going to be tangible while he's still in the job, and whether Villa can afford the fee.
I must be honest, I'm not going to pretend I know. I don't know what his contractual situation is with Brighton. He might have a year left. He might have 4 years. I don't know at this point. But you've got to think that Brighton won't let him go without a fight, or without, as you say, a hefty fee. Scott, I'm about to say a name right now that this man could give Villa fans bragging rights over Wolves for decades to come. If this man goes to Villa and does well, it makes what he did for us obsolete, really. Nuno is quite high on the bookies list. Last time I checked, I think he was 6th favourite. Now, in odds terms, that can change in a day. He could be favourite tomorrow. Nuno to Villa, Scott. Would he One, and two, how would it go? Because they are starting to play 5 at the back, a bit more defensive now.
They are playing 5 at the back, so it would kind of suit the way Nuno plays. I don't think it's one of those where he didn't get a warm welcome at Tottenham. I don't think he'd get a warm welcome at Villa either. I really don't, because of his Wolves history. And I also don't think Villa fans would bite their hand off at the moment anyway. I think it's a fair thing to say, since leaving Wolves, and even his last season at Wolves, his stock and what I mean by that is the way that people value him has gone down. We know he also likes to play a kind of defensive style of football. I think Villa fans might be looking for something a bit more exciting. I also believe Nuno needs a break himself.
So that's a good point. That is a good point. I think he needs to spend time with his family. He did so much for Wolves during the pandemic. Didn't see his wife for, was it a year or something?
Yeah, 1.5, 2 years.
A year and a half he didn't see his wife. A very dedicated man, just didn't work out at Spurs. But you mentioned about whether the Villa fans would accept him or not. Listen, Villa fans aren't stupid. Although we've got a big rival with them, they do know what they're talking about in a football sense, and they'll know that what he did for us took us up with an unbelievable championship winning team, 7th back-to-back, FA Cup semi-final, Europa League quarter-final. If they get half of that success in 2 years from him, they're laughing at us, aren't they?
I agree, but I think there's some names that we've mentioned already that I think are much more attractive choices at this moment in time. And I think after back-to-back sackings, I think Nuno probably needs confidence himself. And I really don't think in general the Premier League job for him will be the right move. So I think there'll be a lot of other names that will excite Villa fans more. One of those that might be is Steven Gerrard, of course, still currently at Rangers. But we have spoke about, and I think he spoke about the fact, and it's been spoken about in general, that, ideally one day he'd want to manage Liverpool. Well, before managing Liverpool, I imagine there's going to have to be an in-between step from Rangers to a Premier League club. And it'd be a great club for Gerrard to step into with Villa. They've got the size of the club, the money's going to be available. And Villa do have a decent squad. Let's not get it twisted. I did say that I don't believe at the moment they've got many players that would get into a top 10 team on my other video, but they've definitely got a squad that should be able to maintain in the Premier League. And you do think they probably still have more of that Grealish money to spend. I think Steven Gerrard would be amazing for Villa fans at the moment. There is so many great names to do so, which maybe makes it, kind of contradicting my previous video, the perfect time to do it.
I'm a massive fan of Steven Gerrard, both as a player and a manager. He comes across so well. Check out previous videos where I've spoken about him. I can't say enough good things about this man, whether it be in interviews, on the touchline, tactically. He's probably, if he went back to Villa, he'd probably be the best midfielder there still. I do genuinely believe that. This guy, he can walk the walk along with talking the talk. So I'd be a bit nervous if Gerrard got the Villa job. I really would. As a Wolves fan, I'd be a bit nervous. I'd look over my shoulder and think, let's see over the next 12 to 18 months. Look where we took Rangers from to what they did. He didn't take a struggling Rangers team to just pipping the SPL. He took a Rangers team that was struggling to annihilating Celtic, broke record after record, one of the greatest SPL teams ever. So if they get Gerrard, I would be slightly worried as a Wolves fan. Scott, we'll end on this note. If you were the board in charge on the Villa board and it was up to you to make the decision, who do you pull the trigger on? Who do you get in?
Well, I actually originally said Fonseca, but I think Fonseca would be an adventurous choice. But at the end of the day, if you could get Graham Potter in, I think that does have to be the one, doesn't it? But it just depends how achievable that is. And I'm guessing you think the same.
I do. I do think Gerrard's more likely because Rangers financially are struggling, so they'll be willing to let him go a bit more. They don't have the Premier League money that Brighton do. So I think Gerrard is more likely than Potter, but for me, Potter's number one.
Yeah, for sure. And one name that we won't speak about, but worth giving a quick shout out to, is the fact that apparently Eddie Howe's backrooms team, there's been a bit of an issue there. Maybe that will get solved soon, but that could obviously also be another interesting name in the hat. And maybe even Daniel Farke. But again, I think that's a bit of an outsider. But guys, that is the video. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. And hopefully we shall see you on the next one. Goodbye.